All right, beautifuls, how are you? We're going to do yet another veil today. I am becoming the Veil Vixen. Yes. Um, and I think people like ordering veils online sometimes in opposed to hats is because you don't have to worry about the fit. You know, veils are usually one size fits all, which is great. I am making sure my nails, the edges aren't snagged at all because with this material, it will catch and you can cause a run in your material. So just make sure your nails, your edges are nice and smooth and it won't snag this material. Okay. I have pre-cut this material. It's 10 by 20. And this material, once I bring in the ends, it will be more like 9 by 19 inches in length. Okay, so shall we get started? Okay, so we, what we're going to do is we're going to prep our hairpins. The difference between a hairpin and a bobby pin is the hairpins are open. You see how it's open? You can see a big gap there. Our bobby pins are closed. Hairpins are great for long hair, thick hair, and just sticking it and it staying in the hair without needing more pins. Hairpins are really great for up styles and for what we're trying to do. So now I cut these thin strips of the same material. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a base here so that we can stitch our veil onto something solid. So I'm really just kind of going around. And I think this is enough. I didn't count how many times, but it's quite padded here. Now I'm going to cut. My scissor dropped. Where'd you go, scissor? Oh, no, it didn't. Right here. And I'm really just going to tie it. I'm going to tie it, I would say, twice. Okay. And I like this hairpin because the gems are movable. You can really, once they're in your hair, you can kind of move them around and situate them to be exactly how you want it to be. We don't have to worry about threading this knot because we will thread it when we attach. We'll make sure the needle goes through when we attach the veil to it. I'm going to do the second one. I like the longer strips. And I like to cut them once I'm done. And I just do enough so that it looks padded. Creating some padding, creating a base. And I'm just going to tie it twice. Once, and I'm pulling it quite hard. This material tool is textured, so it has grip. It's not slippery. It has some texture, which helps. You hear some snoring in the background. It is my French bulldog. If any of you have any Frenchies, you know. You know the snore. So here are my padded hairpins that we're going to attach the veil to. Okay. So what we're going to do, this material does have some wrinkles, but once I stiffen it, those wrinkles will dissipate. If you're not going to stiffen your veil, which I strongly recommend, so that it doesn't lay flat on the face, if you're not going to stiffen it, you can just use a little steam, or you can hang it in the bathroom when you take a shower. Use the steam from your shower to get any ripples out of the veil. So now I'll get my needle and thread, and we're going to fold this material creating a nice accordion or fan at the end, the way we're folding it. Okay, there we go. And now we're going to begin to stitch this together. I did do a single thread. I didn't do a double. And you want to hold your accordion of thread firmly as you sew. I'm having issues with my single thread because one side I need to make it a little bit shorter than the other so it pulls through easier. There we go. So there should be a nice distinction between the long piece and the shorter piece. Okay, now that we've fixed that, we can come back and stitch. I'm going to try to ship this out today. I usually ask for 3 to 5 days, but these veils really, may take me all of 30 minutes to do, maybe another 15 minutes for stiffening. The only thing about doing single thread is sometimes you can lose your needle. With double thread, I never lose my needle. My thread never comes out. Okay. All right. So let's get back in here. Where were we? Okay. I think I was at the end. Yes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this twice. I've reached the end here. Now I'm going to go back and just reinforce my stitching. Make sure that this does not unravel. You never want your work to come undone. It's a nightmare for seamstress to hear about it. When someone says, oh, something came loose, I'm like, oh, what? So I make sure that that's not an issue with my pieces by going in and reinforcing it. I had one client, I was making a hat for her, and I was like, I'll sew the band. She says, no, the pin is enough. You know, you don't need to sew it. And I was like, I was like, okay, maybe it's not going to be a hat that she wears that often. And I don't know. I should not have listened to her, because sure enough, months later, you think we can sew down the band? It didn't stay on. And for some reason in that request, it almost sounded like she was trying to imply that it was my fault when she said, hey, don't worry about it. But I took it as my fault because I said, you know what, Rita, this is your expertise. And, you know, don't let a client who this is not their, you know, their trade, you know, to tell you something that you know is really in the long term not going to work. So I did take the blame for that. But, you know, I also let her know, you know, you did request this, so now we both know for sure that this is what needs to be done. I just see an open loop here. Just trying to get it down. Okay. When I sew the hairpin on here, it'll go away. I'm sure of it. Okay. I'll knot that up in a bit. So we have one side that's bound together. Do you see that there? Okay. So now I'm going to create another knot at one edge of my needle and thread. This thread is very fine, so I'm gonna have to do this at least 4 or 5 times to get a good knot. That was 2, and I know it would come through my fabric. Okay, that was 3. One thing I will say about thread, this is for my beginners. Do not buy too much of it when you first begin. If you're like, oh, I want to get one in every color, and it's exciting. It's like buying crayons or paints or, you know, do not do that, because of course you're going to use some colors more than others. Buy them as you need them, 1 or 2 at a time, because thread over time, the material, when it oxidizes and everything and age, starts to rot and it easily snaps off. So thread, it's not a forever thing. You want to buy as you go, as you need it. Okay, so now we're going to attach this. I'm not going to do it. Let's see, how are we going to do it? Okay. So you see how this material is cupping inward? This is the side that's going to go on the face. So I'm going to put the pin as though it's on the inside. Yeah. Or Hold on. Yeah, this makes more sense. I need to make it make sense. There we go. Yeah. Okay. I need to make sure. Okay. Got it. Just finding the right placement on here. Is that going to be okay, or do I need to do? See, I can't put on the outside because then you'll see the knot. This, I need to kind of fold the material in, not to knot, but something that you don't see it. You see there? Okay. All right, let's start to stitch this puppy, starting from the back. And you want to stick to the edges of the veil and make sure that needle goes all the way through the base. And we're probably going to do this 2 or 3 times to make sure it is secure. Mm-hmm. Doing this video midday and a little bit more light there. You know, I'm like Dracula sometimes. I do prefer the dark. But not good to be Dracula for these videos because you need to see. I know you can see before, but this makes it even better. Okay. Come on. Come on. Thank you. Okay. So I made it to one side. Now I'm going to go back to the other side. So some material sticking up, and when I see that, I try to lay it down with my stitching. Because I'm not a fan of adding a flame. You know how some just burn the material so it kind of disappears. Not me. Okay. And it happened again. My thread came out of my needle. No problem. We're almost done. I feel like thicker thread also doesn't do this. This thread is quite fine, so it's really like working with a wet noodle. Okay. All right, let's finish this up here. Okay. Okay. Once I'm done here, and I can tell this is going to be nice and firm, because as I'm coming back, it's a little bit harder to go through the material because the threading that we did previously is in there real good. Okay, so now we're going to just create a knot here. Make sure these last pieces don't come out. That was one. Let's do another. Okay. Oh, you see? Do you see that? Now, that was my second knot. Because it's color on color, I can't 100% see, but this material just, you pull firm enough, it just breaks off. That's either just fine thread or thread that's old. Okay, so there we go. Yeah. So I'm going to do the other side. I'm going to refine this. I'm going to go back in just in case, because I don't want anything to come loose for my guest, my client, I'm sorry. And then I'm going to do the other side, and then we'll come back when it's done, yeah? Okay. All right, so what I did, remember that string snapped? My solution to that was I double threaded my needle the next time I used it to add strength to it, okay? And what I'm going to do is I am going to mark my weaker threads with a D. I'll have to get a marker. Okay, that's showing up okay. D will mean double thread. Maybe I should put DT. I'll leave the D. D is fine. Okay. And I know not to do a single thread on that anymore. So this baby is done. Look at our ends of the veil. And yeah, look at her. There we go. And then this side. Okay, there she is. And I stiffened the veil using this felt hat stiffener, and it dries literally in like 15 minutes. And I just used a little bit of the paper towel wherever I saw any damp spots, because it will dry looking like a glitter spot. And if you're not going for that look, then you want to just make sure you take a towel and paper towel and kind of wipe it off there, thin out the product. So with this, when you put it on, look, it's able to stand up on its own with a stiffener. When you put it on the head, you can really situate this any way you want, you know, once it's on the head. It doesn't have to go straight back. You can wear it diagonal. You can, you know, make it a point at the top. You can pretty much do what you want with a little stiffener. All right, guys, so if this has been helpful, this was our video on how to connect a veil to a hairpin. If this has been useful for you in any way, relaxing or entertaining, please like, share, and subscribe. Until next week.